This is the final episode of Seat at the Table podcast.
Let's go!
We did it. We are at the final stretch of our senior project. This is kind of crazy. I'm just yapping, you know. It's a good time to yap. But today we're going to be talking about digital discipleship and like what's the inefficiencies that it may have in a local church body. If you haven't been here before, we haven't seen our podcast before, we're kind of just young people about to graduate college, and it's like, what does it look like for us to disciple different generations, whether that's older, younger, where we at right now digitally? So what does that look like in today's day and age? Just to bring some statistics into this right now, the average Gen Z person spends around 6 to 7 hours on their phone, which is mind-boggling. I looked at like multiple different stats and all between that 6 and 7 hour range. The average person in Gen Z that has social media is 94%. Crazy. This is where I kind of have the problem though. The average ministry uses of social media is 85% Facebook, and then a 15% use of Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all this other stuff, right? Like, and I don't know if you guys know anything about this, but if 94% of Gen Z is on social media, I know a lot less people older than me on social media. They kind of neglected it. But if 94% of Gen Z and like younger people are on social media, we're kind of like wasting it with using just all our resources on Facebook and that kind of stuff. Because raise your hand if you actively use Facebook outside of checking your grandma's like feed. What do you use it for besides Marketplace, bro? Yeah, that's what I thought. Like there's very limited uses. Like, of course it's effective right now, but like it is a dying platform on the low. So it's like, what are like the inefficiencies that we have in digital discipleship, whether that is using just a straight Facebook ministry, whether that is like the way that we even convey it, like we're being too businessy, trying to promote the church, but not the people. What does that kind of look like? And like, is it like even effective as we're doing it? Like, are we even creating effective discipleship tools for our church to even use to have resources throughout the week? So yeah, what does that kind of look like, do you feel?
Well, I think, it kind of starts with pastors, and that's why it's so important that we're talking about it right now, is because actually last December I was meeting with my youth pastor of 7 years. And initially when he started, when he came to our church, he was running the church like Instagram for our social media, but then he stopped for a few years. And I remember I asked him last December, I was like, hey, why'd you give up on the Instagram page? Like, I feel like that's such a good way to reach people. And he was kind of like, but like Instagram has all these drawbacks, and like I don't want to promote social media when it's kind of like, negative and has negative effects on like, kids and things like that. Like, I don't want to be a part of the problem. And we actually got into this really good conversation of like, okay, yeah, social media has bad parts, but can it be redeemed?
Yeah.
And can we use it for the beneficiality of the church? And can we use it to reach the unsaved? And can we use it to reach those kids who are on it? And I think that, a big hindrance right now is that, pastors are wary of it. They're either uneducated, uninformed, or just generally averted to using social media because of all of its drawbacks. But I think that there is a way that we can redeem social media, and I think that we need to talk about that and address that here.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I may have a little bit of a different take that could be a different position on social media, but I want to go back to what you said is how churches use it to literally promote the church. If social media is such a good resource and 94% of the generations are on social media, then why are we using it just to promote the church and get numbers in the door? Why aren't we using it to be able to disciple people and educate people on the Bible and who Jesus is and what his business is about? Why are we using it to promote the four walls of a church building? Because I think that becomes pretty redundant. I can think of, next week is Holy Week, and I'll go ahead and say I scrolled through Facebook this morning, and I couldn't count. I couldn't even tell you how many Easter service promotions I saw from different churches here in the Lakeland area, and I maybe saw one educational video on a teaching of the Word of God from a church. So I think that's a huge ratio. So I think when it comes to digital discipleship, man, I think we got to shift our posture from promoting the church and switch to a posture of teaching about the church and what's happening within the four walls, maybe what ministries we have and how we're biblically based, and man, what Jesus is doing in our lives, things like that. I think that could be a great shift for the community.
Yeah, I think a big thing when it comes to digital discipleship is like the tools and resources. Like what we see like effective digital discipleship is like just people running it. Like the voices people listen to in digital discipleship circles are like they're interpersonal. Like people connect with people. Like that's just a fact. And we need to have the same mindset when we're going into it from a church perspective, from an individual ministry perspective. It's like we're connecting with people. We're not trying to promote a business. We're trying to connect with people. Like that's the same thing with any other like social platform, with any other like person that creates content that is trying to reach people. Like they're trying to connect with a person. Like obviously there's like the balance between that as well. But I think when we get too focused in like promoting a church and promoting the events, promoting all this other stuff, like the loss of like the actual connection of church, like of people get lost. And I think we have seen that effect even in the church as well. It's like people are going for the events and the things, but they're not connecting with people as much anymore. And I think that's a problem. Like I think that's a problem that we have created. Like
Yeah. Can I say something controversial?
yeah,
I think digital discipleship is a good tool or facet,
yeah,
but it should not be our main focus for
Yeah.
discipleship.
I agree.
And I think a big issue right now is a lot of churches and organizations that want to appeal to the younger generations are now shifting entirely to a model of digital discipleship, or now making digital discipleship kind of like the primary focus. And I think that's completely incorrect. I think that, yeah, we should utilize digital means as a way to disciple, but we should never make that our primary central focus for the model of our discipleship. Because, and we can dive into this right now, it's just like there are so many things that are just flawed
Yeah.
with digital discipleship. Things
Yeah.
that are insufficient compared to the other models, or just even just in-person discipleship.
Yeah. Steph, do you want to kind of take us on your take? Because you said you might have a little bit different take than us, so I would love to hear it.
Yeah, I think it turns into what like promoting the church. I want to be all about. I want to be Jesus centered. I want to teach people what I'm learning and how Christ is transforming my life. But man, I mean I would agree with Hunter. It cannot be our main discipleship tool. And I think going back a couple episodes to what Nathan was talking about was the discipleship with younger generations and how we connect with their parents and what that looks like. Man, if we're I mean, my mom is not an Instagram user; she's a Facebook user. But if we're just on Instagram appealing to the younger generation,
Yeah.
then how are we connecting with the parents and teaching them that they're the head of the household? So I think that is so important. It's like it cannot become our main avenue of discipleship because there is a lack of face-to-face community. There's just something about face-to-face community that people receive information. I don't know about y'all, but when I lay down at night, I doom scroll, and I can't tell you one thing that I saw that I watched last night.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think digital discipleship could be a little bit of a waste of time if we don't do it intentionally and do it well.
Yeah.
There has to be a fine line between, man, what's trendy, like what's gonna catch the eye, but also like the content of it, like the style can catch the eye, but the content has got to be so Jesus centered.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, this is like going on to like the scrolling and like digital discipleship. Like, it's at the point on some of these like social media pages. I see a church video and I'm like, I know exactly what they're gonna do. They're gonna do the same thing that this other church did. And there's like no actually like, original creative thought process in it. And I think that's just like also a problem with the church. Like everyone just kind of like yoinks from each other and there's like no actual creative thought because like people overload themselves. So the creative outlet too. This is just like a semi broad topic right here, but like the creative outlet that the church has like is taken away because like there's like, oh, we don't have time, we're doing too much. What's this other church that's doing it really well? Well, let's take from them. Let's do what they're doing. And then effectively, like you're not being creative. You're not using the creativity that God given you. You're just like, oh, we're just gonna take away. It's just like you're using AI, but before AI. Like kind of annoys me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I feel like, when we make digital discipleship and digital means too much of a focus, then we fall into this rut of competing with other churches where you're no longer being creative, or you no longer care about like just what God's vision is for your church, but you're trying to compete with these other churches online, trying to get the most likes, follows, and things like that. I think again we need to kind of take a step back with that and like digital means are such a good way to reach people and disciple people. For example, I've been on the digital platforms for years,
Yeah.
using it to reach people. Like I have a social media page with 164,000 followers, meant just to like reach Christians and build them up. I oversee certain forums of like 10,000 Christian members where I'm able to share Bible studies with them. And I think things like that where we're just gathered here online and kind of discussing and talking about like things like that. Like I write devotions for YouVersion and publish those online. Like people are able to access them as resources, but they don't replace, that central fundamental thing of what Seth was saying, like meeting in person. And
Yeah.
and that I think that's how we kind of bridge that or divide that between like discipleship as digital discipleship as a primary versus as just a resource. Is that when it's just a resource, it helps build up the church, but when it becomes a primary, it starts competing less with other churches.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like where we're at. Like we all have pretty good experience with like the digital world, but it's like the digital world is a tool, and it's a tool that can be used super effectively. Like with any new technology, it can be the boom to like Christianity. Like we have seen this throughout history, and I think digital ministry and technology is a way for that. But there's something about like the physical of like being in person, having a conversation with somebody in person that makes it more memorable, makes it more impactful. And I think this is also a step of humility that we kind of been talking about in discipleship in general. It's like, how can we be humble when we're teaching others and be humble with the people around us and have like a meekness in our discipleship where it's like impacting others and like leaning onto like God's understanding and not our own. So yeah, that's kind of like wrapping up our 4-part series here. If you guys enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, say they should get an A on their final, help us out, please. But yeah, it's been amazing following